What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. We're back taking a look at some more team announcements that are going on for the July Internationals. You might see there's a bit of a different change setup today. I'm feeling pretty under the weather, not going to lie. So standing up is making me feel really dizzy. So I've changed the sort of layout a bit. We'll still go through all the teams, talk about some players, talk about some thoughts on the game and what we have coming up. Let me know what you think of this different style layout for doing these videos. It might be something we end up keeping, but just for today, sitting down is going to be my my absolute friend Ireland and the Springboks going in for week 2. Some interesting choices with the team announcements as well. Starting out with the Springboks, we'll go over the game last week, right? Springboks won last week 27-20, a higher scoring game than I expected, but there were some issues with both teams. I think they certainly both felt slightly off, slightly rusty. It was a really enjoyable game as a neutral, but both teams certainly made mistakes, and I think that opened the door to scoring some more points. I mean, the big war talking point, of course, is James Lowe with just some real unfortunate mistakes. That one that led to the Colby try. Just adding points to the board that you think in a different game might not happen. But I'm looking forward to see the rematch of this one, because it was so nice to see at the end of this game. I'm checking out the online discourse. Now, the Springbok and Irish rivalry is really taken a notch up over the last sort of year and a half. It is like a real rivalry in rugby now, and it's enjoyable seeing a bit of banter in the comment sections. You see it all over the online space. But after the game last week, genuinely, the response from the game was fantastic. I saw Springbok supporters congratulating Ireland on putting up a superb performance. I saw Irish supporters congratulating Springbok, saying they were the better team on the day and made less mistakes, and everyone felt like a happy place. But over the course of the last week, just clickbait articles everywhere about, Ireland want the match replayed and Springboks think this is a cheating thing. It's all I hate all that. I wish that would stop happening. The response I saw online was really good from both sets of fans, which I absolutely love. And as a neutral, I just love this game. It was my favorite game of the weekend last week. Moving on to the teams this week, Springboks. Not a lot to talk about in terms of changes. An unchanged side. And, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I like that. We've got the teams up over on this side now. And we'll have a bit of a run through just to talk about some people that I think really sort of shine out. Now, that front row, Oxenshea, Bongi and Benambi and Frans Malherbe again. Again, unfortunately for me, for Malcolm Marks, came on. Breakdown-wise, I thought Malcolm Marks was doing very well in the breakdown. But I just think in the general sort of set-piece era, I was really enjoying Bongi and Benambi. So I'm glad that he's going to be retaining there in that starting hooker position. Rest of them forwards alongside them: Evan Etzebeth, Franco Mostert, Sia Khaleesi, Peter Steph Dutoy, and Quagga Smith playing out of that 8 shirt as well. Still again this week. Sia Khaleesi had his big old bump off on Robbie Henshaw, and I did see in the week that actually activated his HIA thing in his gum shield, and yet they didn't need to check him till half-time. It's like a new rule going on there. But as a forward pack, they certainly brought a lot of passion. Getting on to the replacements, so it's probably what you want to talk about in terms of those forwards that came on a little bit later. Onto the backs of the halfback partnership, Faf de Klerk and Andre Pollard. Pollard missing some kicks last week, which I wasn't particularly expecting. I always had him as a relatively decent kicker towards the post. David Dialende and Jesse Creel going back into that centre partnership. I still think Jesse Creel's playing really well. He was everywhere again last week, which is nice to see. And then Arends, Cheslin Colby and Villy LaRue in that back line as well. And Cheslin Colby getting a bit of a wonder try from absolutely nothing. I felt so sorry for James Lowe. I thought he made the right call to try and keep that ball in play. TMO had a really tough call to look at that. I feel like just the camera angles themselves, I felt like you had to say that he kept it in. But Cheslin Colby just all over that. You can't give him any sort of space to work with. Replacements then. The forward replacements for South Africa. You couldn't do one of these videos and not talk about that scrum. That scrum that happened in that second half that led to the penalty try. They talk about that bomb squad, and then I've seen it over the social media pages about like the nuke squad now. Just chucking on all your forwards in one go and just decimating an Ireland scrum. Now, an Ireland scrum is a big thing to take on in the world of international rugby, and the fact that it got like properly just driven backwards is a real showcase. I think that's maybe what they were sort of aiming for when we had that World Cup pool stage game and they had the 7-1 split and they wanted to bring on the forwards. I think that's the sort of impact they wanted from the bench in that game, and it didn't really quite land that. The Irish forwards held out so well in that game, back in the pool stage, to not really let it take the full effect. Last week, though, we got to see it in all its might, and it is an enjoyable thing. If you enjoy rugby and you enjoy watching two massive powerhouse scrum teams and one of them actually gets driven out, that is an impressive thing. I enjoy seeing that, but yeah, it's not always fun to see, especially if you're an Ireland supporter, to watch that get driven over and get a penalty try off a scrum is not something you see particularly often. But that replacement front row, Malcolm Marks, Steenekamp is how I heard the commentators say. I kept calling him Steenkamp, but I heard the commentators kept calling it Steenekamp. So I'll try and update my pronunciations for that. And then in the replacement backs, well, Grant Williams and Sasha Feinberg and Ngoma Zulu, who, I don't think the kicking was necessarily the best from Andre Pollard last week. Maybe you look at Ngoma Zulu starting, maybe just not enough caps to take on a big game like this. But, stacked South African team. They've had a couple of games now with the Wales game with a bit of a slightly diminished squad, and they've had that one game last week. Team cohesion on the rise. I would still be expecting a very, very good game from the Springboks team. However, in terms of the Ireland team, they've sort of got hit a little bit with injuries, and a couple of those injuries were kind of rough. Now, in terms of the front row, there's been some rejigging, or just the forwards generally, there's been some rejigging actually, because we've got Andrew Porter, Kelleher, and Furlong. I felt for me that the impact of losing Dan Sheehan was quite apparent. I don't think Kelleher is at the level for me that Sheehan. I thought the penalty that went against him from the ruck and his foot kind of dragged the ball, I thought that's such a harsh penalty. Is it a penalty in terms of the wordings of the law? Probably. Would you actually see that happen about 30 times in a game of rugby if you actually just analysed every single rug? I think probably. I think you'd probably see that a lot more often. But just in terms of the general around the park, it's such a shame we're going to lose Dan Sheehan now from this game, because I do rate him massively as a hooker. Kelleher's going to have a big game to step up. In the lock department, McCarthy going in alongside James Ryan. Tyburn is switching to 6, which absolutely he can do, and certainly to an international standard. Peter O'Mahony has moved to the bench for this game. Caelan Doris is going in as the captain of that 8 shirt, and then Josh van der Vliet again in at 7. Some massive ball carrying from this, guys. Maybe they want to just try and make a bigger impact in that line out. I think the scrum situation again this week might be the case that we see similar to what we happened last week, where the Springboks are really going to look to dominate that area. Lineouts might be a certain area that you can look to take on. McCarthy, Ryan, Tyburn, all of those boys can get in the air. You're going to cause a lot of nuisance. And maybe their own confidence in their own lineout. Losing Dan Sheehan, Kelleher coming in. Personally, I would rate Sheehan over Kelleher for the throw-ins and what have you. So maybe they're trying to back their line out a little bit more, just to have a bit more of an opportunity to try and take that platform away from the South African team, while also giving them something to work on themselves. In the backs, man, what a shame! What a shame that we lost Craig Casey. I thought he was having a great game. I was a bit hesitant in the last preview video we did. I thought he was having a superb game. I've seen some controversies going around that as well. Should that have been looked at a little bit more? For me, it was it's a forward's job to just harass a scrum half. I think he got involved. He took the ball off him, and he RG Snaven just went over the top, drove him over. His head's on completely the other side of his body. Doesn't know that ball's gone, and just unfortunately for Craig Casey, the way he lands, smashing his head back. So we're going to lose Craig Casey. It was nice to see the photo afterwards with him and Fat de Klerk. Just checking up that everyone's okay. So I'm glad that he's okay. But we'll be missing this game. Conor Murray coming in, an experienced head. It's the pace thing for me. Conor Murray can be a bit slow at just getting on with it. And against the Springboks team, who have quite an organised defence, I think one of the best times to really make your impact against the Springboks team is to just get the ball out the ruck quick. And that Ireland are a good team at the breakdown in terms of getting that recycle ball quickly, but you've got to get the ball out, and you've got to try and punish them when they're not able to get in their defensive line quicker. They've also gone for that 6-2 on the bench as well, the Springboks team. So, they want a big physical game. They want that tackling game. So getting the ball out quick, getting out wide quick, and trying to get around those forwards, I think is going to be really important. So I'm hoping Conor Murray's going to be, stepping up the speed a bit in this game. Centre partnership, Robbie Henshaw goes in alongside Guy Ringrose. Now, I've not seen anything about Bundee Aki. Having a quick look, it says that Bundee Aki is starting on the bench. That is not what the graphic says. It very much says that McCloskey's on the bench. So maybe there's going to be a change there. I'm literally looking at the news right now. They just argue that isn't the team that's going out. So no Bundee Aki in the starting squad, though. Henshaw going on alongside Ringrose. I'm glad Henshaw's okay from his impact as well. I mean, I don't want to stand in front of Sia Khaleesi. I don't know about any of you guys, but he's a big old boy to stop Again, that impact looked hard. I was surprised by that sort of law change that his HIA thing went off in his mouthguard, but they don't have to check it now till halftime. I feel like you probably should check that, but I still think he had a good game considering the big impact to him. Guy Ringrose coming in outside centre, though, no drop in talent there. And then this back three: James Lowe, Osborne, and Nash going out on that wing. I thought Osborne did well. Actually, I really thought Kieran Frawley should have started the last game, but I thought Osborne, made a nice impact into the game. James Lowe, I felt so sorry for him. I really think that the decision to try and keep the ball in from the kick was the right call. And if he successfully keeps that ball in and an Irish player picks it back up and kicks it back down the end of the field, it's a genius move. It's brilliant. Everyone loves it. The fact that it didn't come in very easily and Cheslin Colby picked up and go, it's suddenly a massive mistake. And then on the restart afterwards, he's trying to make up for that issue. Lets the ball go and it bounces out and you get that. And it just kept going wrong for James. So it's one of those unfortunate things in rugby. You try and do something well, it goes wrong. You desperately try and make up for it. You end up making even more wrong. So James Lowe still is certainly a very good winger. He'll be looking to have a better game going on in this one. But Osborne's still starting at fullback again. Frawley's back on the bench talking about the replacements. I thought again, I didn't know how they would organise this. Frawley, I don't know why he's not getting that much game time. Considering at one point when we got back to the Six Nations, it was like, who would get that 10 shirt? Would Frawley have it? Would Crowley have it? Crowley's landed the 10. So Frawley is going to go to fullback, but then he's not at fullback. I believe Hugo Keenan's over trying to do something with the Olympics or something. I think I saw in the news, right? So Frawley's still on that bench. Maybe just better coverage, can come on at 10 or fullback when you need him to. Maybe that's what they're sort of thinking there. But then in terms of the replacements, then Herring, Healy, and Beelan was that replacement from row. Ryan Baird and Peter O'Mahony going to be going on. Blade going to be going in there as the new scrum half now. Lots of names missing, unfortunately, from that Irish scrum half. We haven't got Gibson Park back. We've lost Craig Casey now. So Blade coming in, hopefully going to be having a big impact in this one against pace. I reckon Blade's going to bring some better pace off the back of those rucks, maybe in that second half, as long as the Springbok forwards haven't pinned you down too much. And then those replacement backs, Frawley, and we believe McCloskey, if you go off the official news. But the other news says it could be Bundyaki. So drop it down in the comments if you see confirmed news tomorrow or whenever you're seeing this, who's taking it. I'm going to go off the official graphic until I get told otherwise. Just getting over the game line is going to be one of the big things against this Springbok team. I don't think it's a terrible move to have someone with the size of McCloskey in to be able to carry the ball hard. Ryan Baird's a pacey forward as well. I think one of the ways to sort of really try and punish the Springboks team is not necessarily just take them on confrontation, head-on-head, big forward game. I would be looking to try and get the hands free in the offload game. There's quite a lot of pace coming on from this bench, which is nice to see. Ryan Baird especially is one of those players I sort of look out for, that if somebody else can take on the collision and then get the offload to Ryan Baird when you've already got past the defensive line, that's where you can really sort of punish a team like South Africa, who are so solidly set in their defensive line. As soon as you get round the back, that's where the scramble defense comes in, and it was really the only way that Wales made any sort of inroads against the Springboks team, was just being able to get around that defensive line. But they had Edwill van der Merwe to get past, who was also superb on the scramble defense. So the Ireland team's going to have some big changes going on here. Unfortunately, losing some key players to me, whereas the Springboks are just loading up on usual processes for me. In terms of a score prediction for this one, I'm still looking at this South Africa team, in all honesty. I think, unfortunately, a couple of the losses to the Ireland team are kind of big blows. I was enjoying Craig Casey last week. Dan Sheehan nodding as well, who I'd still prefer as the starting hooker. I'm going to be keeping a big eye on that replacements forward pack for the Springboks as well. I think the game will be less scrappy than it was last week. Both teams certainly felt like they were getting a couple of things wrong here or there. I'm expecting to be slightly more clinical this week. I'm expecting the point score to maybe drop down a little bit. Threes will be important. I imagine both kickers will be really looking at threes this week, and will be big into practicing the kicks just to make sure they're going to go over the line. I'm still going to go for a South Africa win. I might go slightly more than I predicted last week. I predicted by 3 last week. I actually might extend that out this week. I think I might say South Africa by 6. is going to be my prediction for this one, guys. But drop it down in the comment section. Who do you think is going to win this game and by how much? Make sure you're getting your picks in on Superbru as well. I'm going to see how many of these preview videos I can get out before I need to just go back to bed. So make sure you hit the old subscribe button so you know when all the latest videos come out. I'll see you all next time, guys. Bye-bye.